had every intention of vlogging for you guys over the summer, and yet here we are, the first day of school. I even had a plan for my first vlog that I was gonna make, my first summer vlog on this channel, talking with you guys about some of the things that we do just to bring a little bit of order to the summer chaos. Like some of the things we do to create just a little bit of routine in an otherwise unstructured season. Like times that we, you know, want the kids to wake up every day by a certain time, and bedtimes in the evening, and some little chores and things we have the kids do around the house to kind of help us since everybody is at home and it's a little harder to keep up with the house and the day-to-day. Things that we do to prevent the summer slide, you know, we have a couple of workbooks usually that we have the kids work through a couple pages at a time. We do some reading. We have them write letters to friends and family to keep kind of their writing skills going over the summer. Little things like that that we mix in with the other fun things throughout the summer. You know, the playing outside and taking trips and going to camps and staying up a little later. You know, the kinds of things that are already going to happen in summer. You know, we add in some of these other like structured activities and just a little bit of structure to each day. But a lot of good that does you now, right? Because we're basically all going back to school. I never got that video filmed. Sorry. And I have always found summers to be challenging, but especially as my channel has gotten bigger. I have sponsors that I work for, and I try to keep at least one video a week going for my viewers. It's, you know, a job that brings in an income for my family, and so it's important for me to try to keep up with that. This is a primary example of my mom brain right now at the end of summer. I just put the kettle back in the cabinet instead of down here on its little, you know, perch, its little plate where it's supposed to go. If you are a work from home parent or just a work in the home parent, if you are like a stay-at-home mom and you work in the home, like that's work. It's important work, it's good work. Don't let anybody tell you differently. But you might understand what I mean when I say it can be hard to maintain the work-home balance when you do both of those things in your house. I don't want my kids to feel like they live in my office. You know, like I want them to feel like this is their home, but then also finding time to do my work in my home becomes a challenge. And I find that incredibly challenging over the summer when there are really no hours in the day where I'm on my own in the house. You know, during the school year, I have like 4 or 5 uninterrupted hours at least a few times a week. During the summer, that doesn't happen. So it can be hard to like compartmentalize work and then home and try to create those home life experiences that we want to create for our kids in our own houses when they're young, right? Okay, I cannot find my tripod, so I can set this camera on it and talk to you guys. Oh, where is my tripod? Of course, it was in the laundry room. Don't you guys keep your camera tripod in the laundry room? That seems like, you know, the most appropriate place to keep it, right? I'm just making some toast. This is a bread I made at home. No, it is not sourdough. I actually have a video I'm working on right now that I've been filming for a couple months, and it is gonna take a totally different turn because for whatever reason, I just cannot master the sourdough thing. I made this with regular yeast, and it was a great summer. I mean, Rick continued to swim. He also played baseball. So we had baseball season, long course swimming. McKenna did off-season basketball and weightlifting because she's getting into like true junior high school sports now. She also has already started volleyball. I mean, volleyball is like in full swing. It's been going for almost a month now. My oldest learned to drive. So we did a lot of driving practice over the summer. And since she's a band kid, she's been in band rehearsals since the beginning of July. We also took a trip with my family to Broken Bow, Oklahoma. And with my husband's family, we went to Washington State, to Leavenworth in July. And then between all of those things, we had, you know, football camp and volleyball camp and basketball camp and percussion camp and, you know, lessons and obviously hanging out with friends, having friends over, welcoming people into our home, going to visit grandparents. And while some people would pick up the camera and film that, where my vlogs are concerned, I kind of make them a little bit more about me. I don't put my kids into my videos very often. And I actually mentioned, I have a hard time finding just that sort of off the cuff mom vlog with a person whose kids are not little anymore, you know, with the person who has teenagers. And this is a whole other season, you know, this is a whole different season, I feel like, than when my kids were babies and toddlers. And there's lots of vloggers out there, I think, in those years, but I don't find very many who are in these years and who are talking about it and the obligations and maintaining a calm, non-anxious home when your kids are older. Okay, now I have about 4.5 hours before I need to start running the mom van again to pick kids up. And I need to throw on a t-shirt and get to tidying up. My house is a bit of a wreck. My house looks lived in. Let's put it that way. My home looks lived in. One of my favorite movies of all time is Clue. I'm constantly referencing it and quoting it. And there's this scene at the very end of the movie where all of the characters are just very tired and haggard and worn out, exhausted, and with total deadpan faces. They're just walking from room to room, surveying the chaos and the carnage that has occurred. And they're just like,
this is getting serious.
And that's basically what I did when I got home just now from dropping the kids off for the first day of school. I just kind of like walked from room to room, sort of surveying the chaos of what has occurred over the last few months of summer, having less structure and just sort of letting things go a little bit. So my goal today is just to do a general tidy up, just sort of hit the reset button, go from room to room, put things away, wipe down counters, sweep floors, sort of do just the basic cleaning that we would do. I don't want to get too bogged down in large scale projects like big declutters or reorganizations. So if I see something in a room that I'd like to address eventually, I'm just taking out my phone and jotting it down, just making a list and notes of different things that I might want to tackle, different decluttering projects, maybe purchases that I want to make eventually. And that'll give me a good thing to come back to once I sort of have the house just in like basic run mode. I was watching Kim over at the Wads while I was cleaning the kitchen. I was just kind of had her on in the background, and she said something that rang so true. She said that the beginning of the school is better than New Year's for her as far as fresh starts go and like getting back on track and kind of hitting the reset button. And I could not agree more. Entering those months when we are in more of a routine as a family and actually having, you know, a few hours with everybody out of the house each day, it just makes it so much easier to, you know, tackle projects, to kind of get back into the swing of things, whether it's my personal health, whether it's the homemaking projects that we want to do around the house. The start of another school year just feels like a fresh start and the perfect time to get back on track and hit the reset button. We have lived in our house for over 7 years. It is August of 2025 when I'm filming this. We moved here in May of 2018. At the time we moved, our kids were very young. They were 4, 5, and 8. And now they are 11, 12, and 15. I don't have any elementary students anymore. I just have junior high and high school students. So we're entering into a different season, and I realized that our home kind of needs to function differently than it has. I touched on this when we were starting our kitchen renovation, but we were hitting pause on that for a while because we weren't sure if we were just going to find another home, if we were going to find a home that maybe better suits us as we move into the season. And when we started the kitchen renovation, we decided, you know, at least for a few more years, we're gonna be here. So it's time to tackle some other projects. I have been a little bit remiss at just keeping up with sort of, you know, updating and refreshing spaces. Some of that is just the nature of being in that busy season when your kids are young. And also they tend to be more destructive when they're younger. So it's not really the best time to like repaint or remodel or, you know, purchase brand new furniture, because a lot of times it's more likely that it's gonna get, you know, scratched or scuffed or broken when they're little. But as they get older, they're not as destructive around the house, and you know, a paint job is going to last a little bit longer, and updates are going to be a little easier to keep looking fresh. So I have this goal this year, this school year, to do a lot of work in our home. And we've kept up with the basic day-to-day with the maintenance and the repairs that need to be made. You know, when things break, they have to be fixed. We've kept up with that. But I think my home in general is ready for a refresh. And especially after we did the kitchen remodel, it sort of throws into perspective the way the rest of the home looks. And as we have been working on my husband's transition to a new career the last couple of years, as I have really been working on building my channel the last few years, I think I've just put a lot of those homemaking projects on the back burner. And this year, I really want to sort of systematically work my way through as much of the home as possible and help bring it into this next season of raising teenagers. One of the main focuses for me is hospitality. We want to be able to host family for holidays. We want to be able to host friends. We want our kids to be able to have their friends over. So sort of refreshing the spaces to make them more hospitable, to be able to seat more people at the table, to seat more people comfortably in the living room, and also just make a really warm, inviting, calm, non-anxious home. We finished our kitchen remodel a few months back, and so this part of the kitchen you've been seeing in quite a few of my videos because this is where I cook, right? And most of the videos on this channel are about cooking and meal planning. But this part over here is our breakfast nook. And I mentioned that I wanted to take the table out and do kind of like a seating area over here, almost like a coffee shop seating area. So obviously this part is not finished. Like I never finished this part out. And you know, I probably need to do that. That's one of the projects that's on my list, is to kind of come back to this area and finish making purchases or working out, you know, how I want to turn this into a place where people feel comfortable sitting, chatting, you know, hanging out in our kitchen. I'm not talking about making the most pristine, you know, like magazine cover perfect home, because then I think people aren't comfortable in it. You know, they feel like they can't touch anything or they can't sit anywhere. But I do want to give as many rooms as possible just a bit of a refresh and a bit of a facelift. You know how you can go nose blind to like the way your car smells or the way your house smells? I think sometimes I can go like clutter blind, or what's the word, like home blind, as far as seeing the problems in the spaces, like things that need to be deep cleaned or things that need to be repainted or things that need to be repaired. You get so used to seeing those little small flaws every single day that sometimes I stop noticing them. So I'm trying to sort of go into every single room, take a long, hard look at really what is going on in here. Like try to take the blinders off, try to take my own like comfort glasses off, if you will. This is a space that I'm used to seeing, and like put myself into the position of somebody who's brand new. Like maybe if we were gonna put the house on the market and I was coming into this house thinking whether or not I wanna buy it, like what would I see? What would I point out? What would I notice? And then it's a matter of just being realistic about what we can accomplish. You know, some little updates like just changing out pictures or wall hangings are less expensive than paying to have somebody come in and repair something or repaint a room or put up new trim, purchasing furniture, you know, and we can save up the money to do those kinds of projects. But there are some things that are really just a matter of elbow grease and work and creativity. And then there are other things that I'm gonna have to plan for and work for because we may have to spend some money. And let me just say right now that if you find yourself in a season where you have work to do and you just have to keep your head down, I totally understand. I feel like my family just came out of a season like that. It feels like we have made it through a very transitional couple of years for our family as we were changing jobs, as we were changing schools, as we were entering into a completely different season with like preteens and adolescents as opposed to like babies, toddlers, younger elementary age kids. Maybe you are having a baby, maybe you're having another baby, maybe you are caring for a loved one or an aging parent, maybe you are moving or you are changing jobs or starting your first job or going back to school to enter a completely different career field. I think there are these seasons where those things kind of take priority and some of the other stuff like I'm talking about here has to go on the back burner. During those transitional times, I just kind of tried to keep up with the day-to-day, and I feel like I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that my family is arriving at a time where we've kind of made it through the transition to a new season, and now we can kind of focus on what this next one is gonna be and prepare for it and live in it and enjoy it.